When it comes to titles in the English top flight, Arsenal are behind Manchester United and Liverpool. If you talk about the Premier League era, Liverpool are out of the equation, but Arsenal slide down to 4th. Chelsea and Manchester City leapfrog ahead. While the competition with Man United has been out of the question, Sir Alex Ferguson ensured that it is the rights for the number 2 slot that's been up for grabs. Chelsea overtook them in titles won, and so did Man City, but there is one statistic that Arsenal have held on to for quite some time now. It's the number of matches won in the Premier League era. The Red Devils have 671 wins to their names, while both Arsenal and Chelsea are tied at 583. If Chelsea win against Leeds United and Tottenham win the North London derby, the Gunners will be out of the reckoning. They've not been competitive for quite a long time, and the silverware accumulated under Mikel Arteta seems to have signalled a false dawn. It seems the logical conclusion, as the Emirates Stadium-based entity has failed to live up to the hype surrounding them. It was the same situation at the end of Arsene Wenger's reign and when Unai Emery was there. And this fate is following Mikel Arteta. Arsenal start off and then fall flat on their faces. An interesting coincidence during this short time period are the contract extensions given to key first-team players. Who remembers Mesut Ozil before he got a bumper new deal? He was the best player in the Premier League. No one came close to the passes he sent and the assists that came his way. And then they made him their top earner. Everything fell flat and the German midfielder has never been the same again. Let's come to candidate number 2, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Only in September did he sign a contract extension and has only scored a goal in 9 Premier League games. Can it be the curse of the contract extension? Both were long drawn-out affairs and the fans were behind the club in giving the deals. The fans have turned on the players now, and soon the backroom staff will be questioning where they went wrong themselves. This oversimplification sounds great, especially if you're a conspiracy theory fan, but it's far from the truth. A lot has been said about Ozil's fall from grace. The mercurial midfielder doesn't know how to negotiate the murky waters of club politics and has suffered as a result. Aubameyang's story is different. It takes some footnotes from the path travelled by Ozil, but it is different. It is far too early in giving up hope on him. Aubameyang was the poster child of Arsenal's resurgence. Alongside Alexandre Lacazette, Unai Emery had the attacking firepower that could match the best in the league. Nicolas Pepe was added to their ranks to make them a force to be reckoned with. All 3 players had been impressive at their previous employers. Barring Pepe, Aubameyang and Lacazette had thrived in North London. The Emirates faithfully chanted songs of the duo, and it was earned with toils on the pitch. Moreover, the Gunners broke their frugal ways of doing business to bring the trio together. It took time to get them together as the puzzle pieces came to the new abodes in successive transfer windows. When all together, they should have given headaches to their rivals. Emery never got the chance to properly see what the attacking trident could do on the pitch. The Spaniard was let go as the team failed to have any identity. The same claims that brought an end to Wenger's reign at the club. Mikel Arteta steadied the ship, and it seemed that he'd cracked the code. While Lacazette and Pepe struggled to give a good account of their abilities, Aubameyang thrived. The Gabon national team captain scored goals for fun. It was his goals that led Arsenal's late charge on the Premier League table. It was his goals that stunned Chelsea in the FA Cup final and brought home their 4th success in the competition. It was his goal in the Community Shield that showed fans that Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool could be stopped. This was a team forged by Arteta and led by Aubameyang on the pitch. He was doing it all on his own, and the fans again had a leader to look up to. After Ozil's disputes, it was him who brought everyone together and showed that the Gunners still had life in them. Arsenal were on the up. They defeated Fulham in their opening fixture of the 2020-21 Premier League campaign. He scored the last goal in the 3-0 win at Craven Cottage. And then the fateful contract extension was received and everything went awry. Not so simple as that. Arsenal had been riding high through their efforts on set pieces and forays from the flanks. They were reaping the rewards as teams failed to grasp their tactics. Once the trick was repeated enough times, everyone caught on. It stems from the way Arteta sets his team up. The Gunners play with a high line, but a very compact low block. What it means is they allow pressure on themselves and try to find flaws in their opponent's armour. This gave Man United their success with Solskjaer and what's allowed Jose Mourinho to revitalise Tottenham. However, Tottenham are an anomaly as they can spring into different shapes and have other avenues than the counter-attack to punish their rivals. Meanwhile, both Arteta and Solskjaer's teams can't do that. They have trouble breaking down their opposition and are suffering now as their defence can't hold off attacks. While Harry Kane has turned into a goal-scoring and creative forward, a similar presence is absent at both the Emirates and Old Trafford. One can say that the gig is up, but it's not the case. Arsenal's playing style suffers from a lack of creativity from the midfield. They don't hold on to the ball long enough, and when they have, they circulate it amongst themselves without any penetration. This issue has its seeds in two different areas. The counter-pressing tactics are the first to blame. What is the point of retrieving the ball when you can't do anything with it? If the other side is going to play in their half, you're cancelling each other out, and there's not going to be any progression of the play. In this scenario, the one who blinks first stands to lose the most. The Gunners have been guilty of this. The second route arises from the first, and it is the players that Arteta has at his disposal. To press correctly, he has to use workhorses. The workhorses can get you the ball, but you have to have an outlet who can make something out of it. Sadly, none of the players on the roster have those abilities to boast of, and the only person who has the necessary qualities, his time in being wasted in the wilderness. One has to look at Liverpool's transfer business this season. Both Diogo Jota and Thiago Alcantara were acquired to give them more significant avenues and end their reliance on second ball attacks. Aubameyang cannot score goals if he doesn't get the right service. Only on their excellent nights do forwards convert the only opportunity they get. Even games have gotten up to this, and rarely do computer matchups show 100% conversion rates. Moreover, it's tough to switch on when you're pegged into your own half and are fighting the rival midfielders. While their midfield issues need to be ironed out, Arsenal also have problems in defence and attack. In the former, they have a strange mix of players to call upon. Gabriel Magalhaes has been thrown into the deep end and has performed admirably, but the Brazilian has had no permanent partner. Rob Holding, David Luiz and Shkodran Mustafi cannot be relied upon and have been their bane this season. William Saliba was viewed as their golden answer, but continues to battle injuries. With a porous defence and a team playing a low block, everyone has to come back and help. You can hope to hit on the counter, but how many times can you dribble past one player and then another before being hacked down by a technical foul? It should not come as a surprise that Aubameyang is having trouble scoring. Arsenal's expensively assembled front three are struggling. The Gabonese is not the only one. He's filing in the same ranks as Pepe and Lacazette. Previously, he was the anomaly, but now he's the norm. Since the start of October, Arsenal have been involved in 7 Premier League fixtures. They've won 2, drawn 1 and lost 4. They've not scored more than 2 goals in this period. Interestingly, this run stretches to the opening day of the season, but in this period they've been shut out 4 times. That is 4 games without troubling the scorers. In the other 3 games, they've scored 4 times. The results have dried up because the attackers aren't scoring enough goals. The attackers aren't scoring enough goals because the midfield isn't creating enough, and the midfield isn't creating enough because they're too far back, and when they get forward, the gaps have closed. Arteta solved Arsenal's defensive issues, but he created another in the attack, and now the Gunners have 2 problem areas to contend with. The backroom staff at the Emirates Stadium must have surely worked out the problems. They must have surely found the solutions as well. From the sidelines, there are 2 options for them. The first one is a bitter one for the fans and the club hierarchy alike. Arsenal should bring back Mesut Ozil into the first team fold. The number 10 is the only man in that dressing room with enough creativity to provide the forward line with what they're craving for, assistance in going forward. His numbers at the club speak for themselves. It's difficult to argue with 58 assists and 33 goals from 184 Premier League appearances. Ozil came under flack when Arsenal started to struggle at the back, but he should have been back once those issues were ironed out. However, it would mean that the facade that the club has been putting up in the press has to go down, and they have to admit defeat. In the clash of ego and political battles, this is the biggest problem and one that won't be resolved. The second alternative is to dive into the transfer market and secure a player who can add value to their ranks. One can only imagine how the fans would react if they hear a certain Welshman who was allowed to leave on a free could be on their books again. Aaron Ramsey fits the bill. He can play in the transitions Arteta likes and has a repertoire with the Gunners faithful, but he's not the only option out there. A certain Antonio Conte wants to right his mistake. Christian Eriksen wants to end his journey with Inter Milan, and his agent is looking for suitors. If the right offer is made, the Dane could be back in familiar territory. If Arsenal can make these adjustments, they can give their ailing forward lineup the right ammo to spring the club ahead. Not only will Aubameyang be scoring goals, but the €80 million acquisition of Nicolas Pepe will seem like a bargain. With goals drying up and the team struggling for its identity, the road is long, and we're only 10 matches into the campaign. But we know one thing for sure. The Gunners are not a club that should be lingering in the bottom half of the Premier League table, and certainly Aubameyang is not a forward who goes long stretches without getting on the scoreboard. He's aware that his tally of 2 goals from 10 domestic outings is just not good enough and will surely bounce back from it. He just needs help from the manager, just like his fellow forwards.